Hello, everyone. This is Doug Nelson, the president of BodyWork Associates. And the condition I'd like to explore with you today is costochondritis, which is a condition that involves pain in the anterior chest and can be very, very difficult for people who experience this. It's also known as costosternal syndrome, parasternal chondrodynia, anterior chest wall syndrome, some of these other names. Most commonly, though, you'll hear it referred to as costochondritis. And again, the pain is felt mostly in the front of the chest. We really like addressing this, and me personally, because I feel like one of the greatest ways that we at BodyWork Associates can serve the community is by filling in those spaces where the kind of regular healthcare system kind of struggles in their approach to that. Working with TMJ, pain in the jaw disorders, plantar fasciitis, certain kinds of conditions are things where we really feel like we can make a contribution. And costochondritis is certainly one of those. So again, the symptoms for this pain in the chest, it can kind of vary. For some people, it's a very sharp pain. For some people, it's a deep ache. For some people, it's often, the sensation of pressure. And because the chest wall moves when you breathe, and especially more so if you take deep breaths, anytime you up the ante a little bit by doing more movement that forces you to take deeper breaths, that can be problematic for people who have costochondritis. And not surprisingly, if you feel it, and it's especially on the left side, you're thinking, oh my God, it could be the big one, right? And so you're thinking, especially for, not especially for females, but if you feel that pain going down the arm and it's on the left side, that's something that you'll want to get checked out. That's why many of the people who come to see us have already had all those kinds of things addressed. And while those things are clear, what they're left with is the same pain they had in the beginning, not just a cardiac reason for that. So, and this becomes problematic because, again, I'm just going to cite Mayo, for instance. Costochondritis has no apparent cause. Almost no one I've seen who has this can point to a specific event. That's not typical. It's more so that it suddenly appears. And honestly, I have to say, in the kind of traditional approach to this, it's just, now that it's not something much more serious like a heart issue or whatever, what people are often told is that just kind of wait for it to resolve on its own. And that could take either quite a few weeks or up to a year. I've seen people who've had it far longer than a year. That's a lot to ask for people. And honestly, our track record so far with this has been stellar, and cutting that down into a tiny fraction of that. So embedded into the name costochondritis, the itis at the end implies that it's an inflammation. Looking at the literature, there is nothing to support the idea that this is an inflammatory process. It feels like it, and so it's often given that name, but just because it feels like that doesn't mean it is. And so the strategies that are often used to combat inflammation applied toward this don't seem to help, because it probably wasn't ever inflammation to begin with. And similarly, the idea that the whole focus of it being in the front, that's potentially misdirected too. So many of the stretching kinds of things that are all directed toward the front of the chest, that's potentially problematic, actually, and maybe one of the reasons why it hasn't been that effective, or actually sometimes can increase symptoms. I'm somebody who loves research, and so when I first got exposed to this and started being curious about it, I thought I'd do a deep dive into the literature. And as I've said, luckily I didn't die, because I would have broken my neck, because there's just very little research done about this particular condition. And so that's both positive and negative. the thing is, with my own research about this and the people I've seen, hopefully maybe we can contribute to that in a meaningful way. And part of that meaningful way, and it's way too complex to go in for this video, is just making sure that the ribs are mobile all the way across from front to back, but mostly, honestly, focusing on the back in some very precise, very targeted ways. This is not general massage. This is much more targeted and much more specific. So in the end, if you are somebody who struggles with this, contact me personally, Doug@BodyWorkAssociates.com. I would love to explore more and work with this because it's a real interest of mine. And so if you know somebody who has this condition, please contact the office or me personally, because I would love to see them. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video.